What is something you will never tell your parents about? I put my fist through the wall behind my old bedroom door at my parents' house many years ago. To this day, they have no idea it is there thanks to a strategically placed Star Wars poster that I never took down. I live in fear of the day they decide to remove it. When I was 13, I told my parents I was sleeping over at a friend's house. I actually took a 4-hour bus ride to Los Angeles and went to a Marilyn Manson concert. Of all the things I did as a kid, this is the only major one they never seemed to find out about. I knew about my brother's corn stash because he kept it under the towels in our shared bathroom. But don't you worry, big bro. I'll never tell our parents that you have a thing for large black women that don't shave. Your secret is safe with me. And the internet. That I was secretly using the house phone for RuneScape memberships. When I was a junior in high school, I bought my dog at a flea market for $20, rubbed some dirt on her, brought her home, and told my parents she was a stray I found at a friend's house. They still have no idea that they would have been grandparents about a decade ago. I had only been with my then girlfriend about 3 months. She moved a few hours away for her job, and we were doing the long distance thing. Then we learned she was pregnant. I was still in my early 20s, no clear direction, career goals, etc. It was frightening to say the least. After the initial shock and WTF had worn off, I was starting to get excited about the prospect, but I had no idea how to tell my parents. I know that probably sounds strange, but I was the youngest and kind of the black sheep. I was positive that if I told them right away, it would just been seen as another F-up. So, I found a job where she lived. A week before I moved, she had a miscarriage. I still moved. However, the relationship kind of deteriorated after that. We were both depressed and communication shut down. Within a month, I was looking for my own place in a new city where I knew next to no one. They still have no idea to this day that they were almost grandparents, which is something they desperately want. My sibling is only a stepchild and won't be having kids beyond that. They want a flesh and blood grandchild. I'm now into my late 30s. While I've had my share of relationships, good and bad, some long, some short, I am starting to wonder if it's just not going to happen. The whole family thing. I am sure this will be buried under far more eloquent posts, but it was nice to kind of get that off my chest. I found the X tape of my mom and dad, not knowing what it was. I played it. To this day, I feel like I'm going to puke when I think about it. And that's how I found out my father was into pegging. What actually happened to my bicycle when I was 10. I told them that it was stolen, when really I wrecked it trying to do a stupid trick. Aside from that, I will probably never tell them what college was really like. I broke my younger brother's brand new bed. He literally had it for 3 days, and I blamed his big bonedness. When I was 6 or 7, I broke the little plastic end of the ceiling fan chain off. Seeing as I was an unreasonably moral child, I feared for my life and hid it in a secret portion of my bunk bed. I never told my parents and re-hid it when we got rid of the bunk bed. Didn't tell anyone until my first girlfriend, and I abstain from telling my parents to this day, for no good reason. Needless to say, I had a pretty tame childhood. The kids at school didn't scrape my car up / key my car. I fell asleep while speeding to school and nailed a mailbox with my car. The mailbox slid up the hood, over the windshield, and landed about 50 to 100 feet behind my car, while the car ended up in a ditch. Amazingly, other than the scratches, no damage to the car. I left the $20 in the ruined mailbox, with a note that said sorry, and proceeded on my way to school. Edit, less than a week later, there was a new mailbox mounted on a pressure-treated 4x4 set in concrete. I feel like there's some things best kept away from them. I'll never tell them I'm a mathematician. They'd never accept me for it. It just doesn't add up. Grandparents raised me. My grandfather took me to their church to sign me up for church camp, then, after he was inside signing the paperwork, told me to go get the truck. 13-year-old me was super excited. I put the truck in reverse, hit the gas, went to hit the brake, didn't move my foot and hit the gas again. Crunch right into a car. I panicked, went to put the car in drive. I don't know what happened, but I never put the car in drive, hit the gas and crunched some more. F-150 on a Crown Vic, and the only thing scratched was the plastic on the top of my bumper, but the right-hand tail light of the Crown Vic was demolished. I pulled away and prayed no one saw. My prayers were answered. A week later at church camp, the pastor gave a sermon on how someone hit his car and was going to hell for not fessing up. I will never tell them that I got pregnant right when a boyfriend of mine and I broke up the first time. I got an abortion because I didn't want the baby to have a dad that resented it. I then fell into depression and flunked out of college and lost my financial aid. That's why I couldn't afford going to college anymore and dropped out, not just because they raised tuition. That I sat at the top of the stairs for months late at night listening to them talk about how their marriage is failing, about how we let them down, about how there was no love anymore. When the day finally came that they dropped the bomb on us, I cried out and acted all upset, but I was already dead inside. My usage of hard drugs and how they paid for most of it. My mom's car smelled so bad that they couldn't get in it for a few days is because I sprayed 2 bottles of liquid ass everywhere inside. I had sex with my mom's best friend. She's hot as F. My dad got a raise at his job because I blackmailed his boss. I saw him in public with his mistress. My mother was one of those ladies who always spent a shit ton of money on useless kitchen items that have only one super specific use that she herself never even needed. One of these items that she bought and loved dearly was a $15 Pampered Chef melon baller. Anyway, one time when I was 14, I was so constipated that I thought I was going to die. I was so embarrassed and really didn't know what the F was going on that I felt like I couldn't tell anyone. It was so bad, I thought my internal organs were rejecting my body and trying to flee via my asshole. I didn't shit for 3 days. Eventually, I got up the courage to try and get it out and over with because I was getting so backed up that I stopped eating. In the process of trying to deliver this shit baby, it got stuck halfway. I panicked and horse walked around my house looking for anything to help me. Then I saw it. Sitting on the kitchen counter, shiny and new. So I grabbed some liquid soap, lubed up the melon baller, and shoved it up my packed backside. I don't know what the F I was thinking. All I know was I was in pain and in panic mode. By golly, that melon baller was worth every damn penny, scooped my shit right out and gave me an intense feeling of relief that I haven't felt since. God is my witness, my mother came home that day with watermelon and honeydew just so she could use her new melon baller. 12 years on and I have never mentioned it, and my mother thinks that I hate all types of melons due to my refusal to ever eat her summer melon ball salad that has since become a staple. Story time. So I went to hockey camp when I was 16, and at hockey camp you don't pleasure. Ever. That's weird. So imagine a 16-year-old man, 2 weeks of no jogging off, I'm about ready to explode. When I get home, I rush up to my room and start doing the deed. I was about halfway through my session when I realized, oh no, I have nowhere to blow this load. No tissues, no towel, nothing. So, in my infinitely creative teenage mind, I figure if I blow it into the carpet and rub it in with my foot, the semen will disappear. So I did. Unbeknownst to me, semen stained a yellowish-greenish color in this particular brand of carpet. 2 days later, my friend and I are downstairs hanging around. All of a sudden my mom comes down and says, "Name, you need to quit drinking Mountain Dew upstairs. You spilled it all over the carpet and I had to clean it all up." My honest opinion of their parenting methods. This is an old example, but if your kid isn't doing well in school, you don't just say this is unacceptable, ground them, and then do absolutely nothing to help them do better. If your kid fails and you do nothing to help them succeed, why would you be surprised when they fail again? Or when your kid gets a final offer on a full-time job. When they tell you they want to take a year off of college to save up money because there won't be enough for the coming year, you don't freak out at them and rage that most people who take a year off don't go back. And then, when your kid turns down the job and goes to school like you wanted, you don't get to be upset when there isn't enough money for spring semester. I apologize for ranting and for anyone that reads this. I needed to vent. I'm never going to have kids. I simply am not the right kind of person to take care of children, and I'd probably end up in prison. Discussing this side of my personality makes people uncomfortable, so I stay away from it and wear a smile. Out of sight, out of mind, am I right? Then I started smoking grass at 13. The thing is, I come from a really big family with 13 kids. I was the 10th, and most of my older siblings are 11 to 20 years older than me. They all had started smoking, drinking, stealing, etc. by the time they were like 12, and my parents were so happy that I didn't turn out like them. How much of an absolute psycho I was as a teenager. Yeah, I know, everyone's an asshole as a teenager. I hardly invented that. And I'm pretty sure my parents got the hint that I went out with my friends, and sometimes we did things that were not quite legal. But, God, my friends and I were something else. Smashing car windshields with slingshot marbles, throwing rocks through school windows, blowing up pumpkins in people's yards, hitting golf balls off the roof of a school into a random neighborhood until we heard a window break. We were effing feral. It was effed up, and looking back on how we probably ruined a lot of people's weeks, I'm pretty embarrassed about it. My parents always had a boys will be boys attitude, but I don't know how they'd feel if they knew the full extent of it. It was New Year's Day, past midnight, but still nighttime. I was in my room and my dad and his girlfriend were downstairs. I was in my room and I started to hear some stuff going downstairs. It was faint, but very apparent. I leaned in next to the vent in my room, over the living room where they were. They were having sex. This emotionally scarred me for weeks, maybe even months, but not because of the sex. I was a teenager and people were having sex. I pleasured for about 10 seconds before I had the biggest orgasm of my entire life. Then I realized I jogged off to my dad having sex with a person. That is when the mind-breaking began. I've told my dad that I heard him, but I will never tell him that I jogged off to him boning a chick. I hope this gets lost in the comments. Since my parents are very conservative Mexicans, they will never know I lost my V-card 2 days ago. My mother already threatened to kill me if she ever found out I was having sex with my boyfriend. 5 words, I effed a banana plant. Yes folks, you read that right. It was somewhere in Asia. I was 13 at the time. You know, hormones and whatnot, and plus internet corn was not a big thing back then. It was this one night when I was really excited. I had grown tired of my corn mags and dull imagination. I was crazy excited that one night. Luckily my parents were not home. So I proceeded out back door with D in hand, and there was that banana tree, the only one noticeable plant in our backyard. I grabbed a knife and proceeded to drill a hole in the poor tree. My D was hard as titanium, so I ran and grabbed some lotion for the tree. I put it in all moist and rough, but I still effed it to completion. I effed it for a good 10 minutes and my D felt like it was on fire, and then bam. I didn't bother to clean up afterwards, I only stuffed the hole with dirt. Don't judge me cause it only happened once. Mom, Dad, all those times I talked to you on deployment and told you that we were just hanging out on FOBs pulling guard duty were complete BS. I don't know how to talk to you guys about the shit I have seen or the things I have done. I am not the kid you raised. I'm sorry that I drink so much and that it has caused you problems. I try to stay as far away as possible just to keep my behavior from your eyes, and I hope you don't think I stay away because I don't love you. You guys are awesome and I wish I was a better son. That my sister and I used to tie one end of the sheets to my bedpost, climb onto the roof, and rappel down the side of the house. Sometimes we were feeling ballsy and parkoured between the 3 roofs that were relatively the same height. We also used to sneak out and go sledding at 3 a.m. I guess that's not so bad considering. In the summer of 2012, I told my mom I was going to a music festival in New Jersey. I was actually at BronyCon. I would rather she think that I spent a weekend doing drugs than that I spent a weekend at an MLP convention. Nice try, Dad. Can't hate me for trying. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Also check out our other videos and have an amazing day.